Check. Good. So I'm Max Ceron. CWB Association Welding Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association Podcast. My name is Max Ceron and I'm here on the floor of Fabtech 2024 in sunny Orlando, Florida, in the Miller booth, ITW booth, with the wonderful and super talented Patricia Carr, who has been a wonderful friend and associate for a few years.
Yes. Well, Max, first, thank you for having me. Thank you to CWB for this podcast. Really excited to be here. I mean, this Fabtech this year has been something amazing to look at. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Patricia Carr, National Account Manager of Welding Education and Workforce Development. Been at Miller Electric for 6 years, and my job is to build welding education programs all over this country. I cover the East Coast and all of the wonderful country of Canada. Thank you.
So when you're talking about building education,
Yes.
are you talking about building education for just welding or the host of things that Miller does?
So the entire ITW welding portfolio.
Yeah.
So when you think about welding, right, there's so many different components, right? So we're talking about training, we're talking about torches, all things welding. That is what my portfolio, what I'm in charge of. Yeah.
When you came in, how long have you been there now?
6 years.
6 years, wow.
Yeah.
Was there already an education program started, or did you kind of bring this in from nowhere?
So what we had was products that were sold into education, you see. So a lot of everyone here probably familiar with our augmented reality products. And that product was built for welding education training because we know there's a skills gap. So my colleague and I, Steve Hidden, when we first joined together arms and started that role, we saw initially there was a true market in education. And this is why Miller now, we have a full education offer. And we're continuing to grow.
So when you're looking to develop education, are you looking at high schools? Are you looking at post-secondary? Are you looking at codes and standards? What is it that you're trying to aim like as an end goal?
Yeah, so we target both secondary and post-secondary. Obviously, depending on the type of institution, they have different goals. But the most important thing for us is to make sure we continue to have growing welding programs. Because in order for us to be a great welding manufacturer, we need people wanting to weld. And this is why we're invested into the industry the way we do.
So do you find it easier or more difficult to try to sell an education program with the equipment you make or without it? Because there's competitors, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Great question. You know, the biggest challenge in CTE, and this is just the kind of the industry as a whole, it's money. So that is the major pain point that we run across with selling it. And when we talk about like augmented reality, it's really looking to educate both CTE instructors and the industry on a new way to learn, you know, the adaptability of that. And what we find the challenge is you take someone who's a 20-year welder, Max, who's been doing this thing, you know, for all these years. They know. And then you bring in technology, you're literally provoking everything that they know. So it's educating, right, our industry out there, our teachers, to want to adapt and utilize some of the new technology that's available. So that's really the biggest challenge that we see in this space.
So it's the old people.
I like to say mature.
We can be stubborn.
That's true.
But you know, AR is not, I would say, totally new,
right,
but it's coming into the space of training now.
Yes.
And the biggest thing that I find with AR is the reduction in cost of consumables.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you're looking to develop AR programs like augmented reality,
right,
what are the things that you want to really get across?
So 2 things. The first thing, obviously, we mentioned money earlier, right? So to run an effective welding program, you're going to spend money on consumables.
Right.
Now, introducing some type of augmented reality product to provide training for that student, when that student comes in entry level, they're no longer utilizing consumables at the front end of that training. So when you replace that with some form of training solution, you're initially saving so much money in the consumable costs. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the muscle memory and technique. You know, as you know, Max, Welding is muscle memory and technique. That's 80% of it. If you can train students on good habits without burning through consumables, getting them to hold the MIG gun in the right way and getting that form and get comfortable welding, you get them to do that first before placing them in a traditional welding program, traditional welding environment, they're going to weld better. And in fact, we have data to support that. Many programs around the country who have seen students gain the aptitude of welding quicker by utilizing some type of augmented reality product in the beginning of their training portion. So that's what we're seeing, and it's been effective.
Whoops. When you're writing the curriculum,
yeah,
are you putting in the pieces where you're saying, this is lesson plan 1, grab the AR machine or the augmented reality machine and work on this now? Is there the places for it as you learn?
Well, in terms of curriculum, so we offer almost like an open source platform known as OpenBook, which you're familiar with. And the uniqueness about OpenBook, it's not necessarily a complete scope and sequence, but it gives you the components to build a scope and sequence. So, every instructor, like we talk about, has their way of how they teach. So if you decide you want to start with MIG welding, we have actual courses and e-modules on OpenBook platform for that instructor now who's armed with the information can utilize to support the training on the augmented reality system.
One of the biggest issues I saw, or hurdles, or obstacles when I was teaching, I remember when VR first came out, was that if you don't have a strategy to implement it, it starts to gather dust.
Absolutely.
Right. You start wondering, well, when do I use it? I have 14 students, 12 students, or 40 students.
Right.
How do I use one machine? Do I need 40 machines? How do I actually start incorporating this into my normal school where it wasn't normally there before?
Right.
What advice would you have for an instructor that's looking at this and thinking, how do I get this to be part of the cycle?
No, great question. So a couple of things. The uniqueness about, purchasing that Miller product through our distribution channel is that they will come in and now support you with the implementation of that product. So in addition to OpenBook that we offer, we have additional resources to kind of help arm that instructor so it's less scary, right? To integrate that into the curriculum. So yeah, that is a challenge. That is the biggest challenge we see with this technology is integration into welding programs, but we're working through it.
Yeah. Well, the more they get out there.
The new way of learning. It's here to stay.
Right.
It's not going anywhere.
Now, this platform has been out for a couple years now.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
How many iterations in are we now? Is there going to be a new system coming out, or are we just growing on the existing system to get it out there more?
Great question. So couple of things. Now, we are always looking at new product development opportunities here at Miller. Now, the uniqueness about this, first of all, we are coming out with the new product, but the software changes that we do make, anyone with an existing product will get access to that particular software without any cost. So we don't charge additionally for those upgrades because as we get to learn the product, we're continuing to do more VOC, which is voice of customer research. We're going to make that product as realistic as possible so that way that student can understand what welding truly is from a technique standpoint. So to answer your question, yes. We have so much new ideas coming down the pipeline and excited to share it with you when I can. Thank you.
Now, what about the feedback from the instructors?
Yeah.
What are they saying? They're like, okay, I bought your product, brought it in the classroom, we're putting it down, I'm incorporating it. What are they saying back to you about the product? Do they give you like all the yays, also some of the nays?
Oh, yeah. No, so our process, our CBI process, which is known as customer back innovation, it is required for us to do a lot of voice of customer research. So to your point, we have these, I want to say think tanks that we do, and we have a select group of instructors around the country who would come in, test our product, give us real-time feedback on what it's doing, what it's not doing, and then we now, as a manufacturer, develop a strategy around making sure that this product is serving our customer. Right. So every update that you see in an augmented arc, a mobile arc, or even a live arc has been backed by some type of customer feedback. It's not a bunch of engineers sitting in a room thinking about the new sexiest and latest thing. Everything comes directly from the customer, and we build it out the product to serve you guys. So,
and in the segments of education, you have the 1 week classes of the camps.
Yep.
Then you have like the 6-month classes, the 2-year courses.
Right.
Which are the ones that are kind of adopting this most?
So we see a range, because here's the thing about any training solution. It can fit in multiple spaces. It has So you have the first piece about recruitment. But in terms of like that short 6-month program, a lot of times those programs are introductory. So we'll see how the Augmented Arc or even the Mobile Arc system can be utilized there to just get students a feel for welding. But also at the post-secondary level, you think about, the Lincoln Techs of the world who actually train welders, they become certified. Once again, they're utilizing that to introduce welding to those that are new. And so that student could now have aptitude quicker because those programs sometimes are like a 9-month run, right? So they need you to get it fast because, their job is to place you in a job. So we've seen it being utilized in so many different, types of programs. And it all depends on what the goal is, but it can serve it multiple purposes.
Do you see this as mainly a secondary or tertiary resource, or do you see it as making someone actually industry ready?
Great question. You got some good questions, man. Okay. So this is where I see this fitting. I'm going to tell you why it's both. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of the secondary and the post-secondary piece, because of the tremendous consumable savings and budgets are always strapped, right?
Always.
Especially within the public education sector, I see this playing well there. Now, when you talk about advanced like welding engineering programs, right? A lot of times they don't have as many physical welding spaces to do.
Very small.
It's very small. So something like this that doesn't need a traditional lab, you don't need fume extraction. Exactly. Runs on 110. This is where we see that this particular type of stimulator work effectively. So to answer your question, I see it working in both environments.
Now, do you think that a shop would want one? Like, is there a place for it, say, for commercial industry to say maybe we should all have an AR machine, so if one of our fresh new employees is struggling, instead of burning plate, we can get them to practice on this in the afternoon? Or I'm just thinking, like, is there other roles that this type of technology might sneak into?
Yeah, I definitely can see it in shops because it comes down to cost. I think one of the major pain points that this technology really supports is saving on consumables. So for that shop, person who owns a shop, who has a bunch of employees, someone may be screwing up the welds, you get them back in an AR machine, let them to get that right, and then now that shop is saving money. And, and a lot of times time is money in those environments. There's an order that's in, they got to fulfill that order. So, that's where I see that particular machine working well for them.
In Canada, the foundation, the CWB Foundation, we've purchased a number of your machines. Yes. We're using them across Canada through camps and mainly for recruitment purposes, right? One of the things that we found is the most interesting is that it's kind of a gamification, right? Because you get the students in and they start getting competitive with each other.
Absolutely.
About, the score and how they do and how good it looks. Is there an aspect of the machine software going forward that might capitalize on that?
Yeah, I think in the time we're living in now, where technology is every student's friend, right, in terms of young people, we are definitely looking at to benefit us from an industry standpoint. So I'm going to say yes, but there has to be a balance. So we're all about making sure that this is as realistic as possible, right? So we don't want to create a great game, but really doesn't prepare that student for that real environment. So we're constantly making sure that balance stays in place. But yeah.
And how do you make it so real? Right? Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of really intelligent engineers and designers and stuff, but when you're looking at it, you put on the helmet and it's augmented reality. You still see things, you're still there, but then all of a sudden there's a weldment in front of you, right? And you get to weld, and you have these controllers and these cool pieces.
Right.
Is there a fear of that tech from instructors? Do you think sometimes it could be overwhelming?
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that train the trainer piece is, it's really important in this type of technology. And because here's the thing. If the instructor's not comfortable with the product,
he's not going to use it.
He's not going to use it. And how can he? It won't be a teaching tool, and that's to your point. It'll take up dust in a corner in a classroom.
Yeah.
So, so we have two challenges, right? It's one, to get the buy-in from the instructor, like I said, who's that 30-year instructor who knows how to weld, getting them comfortable with the system. But then the second piece of it, how can we empower the instructor to implement it in their programs? And I tell you, even internally, this is a conversation we're having all the time because we know it's imperative for this product to be successful, but more importantly, it's imperative for programs to be successful.
Right. Now, in your experience now, with 6 years of working on this product,
yes,
in Canada, like I said, we kind of do a three-way partnership. We have you guys supplying machines, giving us a great deal, because you have like you have discounts or promotions for education and for stuff like that. Then we have the schools, and then we have us as the association kind of being the third piece. That seems to be a fairly successful model. Is that happening in the U.S.? Are you having associations stepping in and helping the schools that are underfunded get these products in the door? Or how are you getting them into the schools if they can't afford it?
Yeah, great question. So there are a few layers that are happening now. In terms of the North America market, oftentimes schools are successful by writing grants. And so what we have done at ITW Welding, we've built a grant assistance writing tool to now arm schools who want to have this technology in their programs to understand these are the components of a successful grant. So we've spent money and resources to kind of lay that out for the school, because a lot of times there are no resources in that area. So that's one piece in terms of funding. Another thing, we have Perkins funding that comes down from the federal government. A lot of times we'll see schools utilize Perkins funding to buy this type of technology. And then we have other streams, like there's private philanthropists that come out and provide support for funding. So, there are different areas to do that. And to your point about the challenges with affording this type of technology, I think it's important for us as an organization to continue to provide more resources to educators, so that way the money doesn't become a challenge. And we're doing that, and we're continuing to do that research. Now,
in terms of partnerships,
do
you look at establishing long-term partnerships with schools? So, they buy 5 years later, they can buy the new 5. How can you keep the new tech in the schools?
Great question. So new technology, there's a few things. So those schools who have purchased the product already, a lot of times those are easier because they know the power of the product.
Right.
So we can come back to them and say, hey, this is a better version of what you have. So we've seen that being effective. But another way to keep these products in the schools is data to support the impact of those products. Because, anyone can come out with a nice product, but the question is, what is the true impact, right? Yeah. Or the ROI for the program? And so we are investing money into research to support these types of products, because we want educators to make an informed decision, and administrators from all over this country and in Canada. And it's important for us as a manufacturer to provide all of the data, so that way the customer can be informed. So data is the way.
And in the 6 years that you've been with the company,
yes,
what changes have you seen happen in the industry? Like, you guys are building curriculum. There's a lot of players building curriculum now, right? And we're one of them, right? There's lots of people getting into the game, and it's not an easy game to get into.
No.
So, how do you temper those expectations or try to come out ahead?
So, we're not in the curriculum business, but I can speak for in the welding business. One of how we keep ahead of the competition, I believe one of our strengths is that CBI process, that customer back innovation, because it doesn't stop, right? So you can come out with a great product, and because you have great sales, sometimes you can take a step back and say, hey, this is working. But we are always challenged by leadership here at ITW Welding to continue to see what's next. What's that next greatest thing? How to take this product to the next level? What are customers also complaining about? And I mean, nothing gets thrown in the garbage. We prioritize through our 80-20 process, but sometimes we go back to the 20s and look at, hey, is there potential 80 there, right? Where we can build out and support our customer.
It wasn't the right time, but now it is.
Absolutely. Like AR, a couple of years ago, someone probably would have laughed at you, about it, and now it's the right time. So, yeah.
Now, in terms of future developments, where do you see this in 5 years? If you look at the last 5 years and how it's moved forward, is there a top? You come to Fabtech every year, and you're like, there can't be something new. There's so many new things, and then you see more new things.
Absolutely.
Right. So what's next on the horizon for the education pieces?
Yeah, I think collaborative robots.
Oh.
I think that's where, look around us here at Fabtech.
Everywhere.
I feel like a robot show almost. Right?
Yeah.
So I believe collaborative.
I'm actually a robot. I'm sorry. That's why my voice is so weird. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I believe that, robots is going to be kind of the future in this welding space. A lot of times, like you look at, companies that have a lot of repetitive welds, the cobot system does well there because you can literally code that system one time and it's going to get it right every single time.
Yeah.
The robot can't catch COVID or need a day off,
or lose its voice.
So I believe that's where the future is going. And I would even take it a step further where when we can combine AR technology with some type of collaborative piece to support training in this area, that's where I believe, this industry is going to go, because we can't produce enough welders.
No,
that's a fact.
no.
So companies have to be unique to fulfill that workforce. And so collaborative robots are going to be here to stay. I believe they're going to continue to grow. And I believe training programs around the country are going to have to adapt to that. Laser welding, is another one.
Right.
So
But
that's
these are
where we're
all
going.
new price tags
Absolutely.
that we got to somehow get the schools to pay for. If the students could see these things, they could take it to the workplace and be like, I'm comfortable with it. I know how to use it. Let's go with it.
Right.
Right. But we don't see this. You guys are doing it to support welding. But like you said, how are we getting this into cobots? How are we into CNC cutting? And lots of these pieces of equipment are expensive, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. So I believe exposure is key.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is awesome about our organization, we have tech centers all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we can, we would definitely invite schools out to the tech centers, right?
Right.
Just so they have an experience with something new. And the only cost for the school is to get the students there. But we're happy to have our staff kind of go through and have the student have a touch and feel and kind of get under the hood of some of the new technology. And I think that's where we can start to plant some seeds. And, as I continue to travel the country, it's working with key organizations in this space to get education to start to think differently about this. And someone like myself in this role and my colleague Steve Hidden, us kind of being the front runners of this, speaking to these entities, you talk about Perkins and like the ACTEs of the world, making sure that they continue to advocate for funding for new technology, keeping that top of mind, because we're working with the John Deeres of the world. We're working with the Caterpillars of the world. And these are great companies.
Huge manufacturing companies.
That students will be working at. So finding that balance, between the two is what we continue to work towards.
Those partnerships you're talking about, these big companies, do they help getting your message out? Do they bring it into their companies? Are they out there flogging for you guys?
And as I mentioned earlier, the augmented reality piece, like a John Deere, for example, they'll utilize it for recruitment and different forms. And I believe because companies like that are adapting to this type of technology,
it gives a lot of eyes on it.
It gives a lot of eyes on it, and the schools are more open to it, right? Because, hey, if my employers are utilizing it, then maybe this is something we should be utilizing it in our program. So that's where kind of that informal partnership, I should say, is happening, within the industry.
When you come to Fabtech, and you're bringing the AR systems out here, what is it that you're hoping to gain at a specific show like this?
So feedback.
Yeah.
Interest is always there, give or take, but getting that person to experience, the technology. Sometimes we get, instructors who haven't had a demo or haven't experienced it, getting them under the hood, exposed to it, hearing that initial thought on, hey, do you think this can be a tool that you can utilize in your classroom? What are the barriers for you to get it, right? And constantly doing that voice of customer research. That's where we really do well here at Fabtech. And of course, our distributor partners, which, we sell through distribution, all of them are here. So it almost becomes a think tank in a room as well on how we can continue to kind of grow, as a manufacturer. So those are kind of the two things I'll say that we look for here at Fabtech.
And have you seen a lot of growth in your AR world?
Oh, absolutely. Our product development team, and shouts out to Jeremy for watching, is doing a great job, in terms of making sure we look at what's new, because we don't want to be great. We want to be great now, but we want to also be better, in the future.
Keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward, because there's a lot more to do to impact the industry. So.
And you talked about how this is like the Ferrari of your gear.
Yes.
What are the other levels? How many versions do you have? What's the difference?
Okay, so we have 3 versions of training solutions within the portfolio. So walk with me, guys, okay? So think of this as cars. So the first one is the Mobile Arc system, which is here displayed on the desk here. I call that the Toyota version of the product. That's a MIG-only quarter-inch steel welding AR tool. Tabletop, really lightweight, under 10 pounds. Really targeted towards that middle school market and also high schools, and also recruitment events for post-secondary. That's where we've seen quick and easy, ready to go. Don't have to be a welder to turn it on, And then the next one is the Augmented Arc, which I mentioned before. That's our Mercedes-Benz version. That is a true multi-process augmented reality welder. You can change the type of process, the type of materials you weld with. I mean, there's a work stand. You can do overhead welding. I mean, the range is amazing. You get the full, WPS functions in that system. And then we have the live arc system, which I call the Rolls Royce.
Okay. All right.
Of the product line. And that one gives you the best of both worlds. You have that motion tracking system blended with a live welding environment. So that school doesn't lose a booth, because we know real estate is a challenge, in a welding program. So you get the best of both worlds, where now you have a system that you can train on, and also a system where that student can actually weld on in a live welding environment. So that's kind of the difference between the tiers, and each one of them has a different purpose.
Or audience.
So thank you. Or audience, for sure. And at the end of the day, it also comes down to price. So
do you think that a good program, let's say I'm a school, reach out to Patricia and I say, okay, I got some money from the government, I want to put together a program.
Right.
Do you say 2 of these, one of those, or just 5 Rolls Royces, or am I buying a fleet of Toyotas?
Right. No. So great question. So when you reach out to myself, I am interested in making sure you have the right tools for your program. It's not about me selling you the most expensive type of equipment, because what is our goal, right? We're here to support the health of the welding industry. And you need to be empowered in a position where you can not only buy the training solution, but you can buy the things you need for your traditional welding program as well, like consumables. So taking a look at the program, looking at, what exactly are you trying to teach from a process standpoint, because depending on where you are in the country, it will differentiate, with the type of welding that's really done there. So we definitely take more of a customized approach when we look at that. And once we take a look and understand that curriculum, we will make recommendations for you. And then also classroom size plays a portion of that as well.
Now, what if industry reaches out and said, we're a mining company, we have our special WPSs for mining.
Right.
Can you create for us programs for AR that we can have in our local school so that those kids can come out already knowing how to do what we do at the mine? Is that a thing?
Great question. And you look like you're in my CBI process. So I'll leave it right there. But let's just say that there's power in software and a lot can be done. And so how you're thinking about going to industry, finding out what exactly their need, creating the product to meet the industry demand, that is exactly what this particular portfolio can do.
All right. And have you done that with anybody?
So we have come up with like custom coupons in the past, and we still do.
Because CWB is different than AWS, right? So
it can be done. Yes, and we have done it. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where's the biggest uptake so far with the systems?
So when you say uptake, expand that for me a little bit.
Like who's buying the most right now?
Okay.
High schools, post-secondary, associations. Who's kind of helping you guys move the most?
I will say post-secondary, and honestly, it's only because of budgets. They tend to have a larger budget than the K through 12 space. So we got high schools that want it, but sometimes there's some other challenges that stand in the way. But post-secondary would be the 80 of what we focus on. To be honest.
And what are the 20s? Who are the 20s, right?
The high school programs. Yeah. And when I say 20s, it doesn't mean they're less significant, but it's just there's more barriers to purchase. So it would take someone like myself to provide the grant writing resources, work with that customer a little bit more. Connect them with another group. I mean, I've even seen this power in districts, right? So where the district will purchase a system and they would almost do like a library setup where every particular school will have it at a certain period of time. I've done that, and that has been effective. So thinking about unique ways on how to buy the system and have that technology in the classroom is where we will kind of help support, some of those efforts.
What about the new welding processes coming out? Laser welding.
Yes.
I'm sure Miller's going to be. Have you guys gone? ITW, does it have handheld laser?
We do.
Is that represented on the Augmented yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. But we do have it. We partner with IPG, and we have a laser welder, the OptX. Definitely check it out. Yeah, for sure. We have it here on the floor. So
what about cutting?
Yeah, that's another area. I mean, here's the thing, right? The entire portfolio is always looking to grow.
Yeah.
Now, from an AR standpoint, we're always looking to build, training tools to support what's being used. But the 80, based on our research, is the actual welding. That is the toughest.
That's where they spend most of their time.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to focus a lot of our efforts here. Doesn't mean we won't do some of the other things, but that's kind of where the customer is telling us they need the most help.
And you said like the curriculum that you have is supports the machine, right? So
from an instruction standpoint,
could an instructor, in theory, run a course with the Augmented Arc and your guys' curriculum front to back?
So we do have some of the open book modules that are available to be viewable within the Augmented Arc system, to answer your question. And we have some other curriculum companies that we've partnered with where you can actually do some of their curriculum on the Augmented system.
Cool.
We have the capability, and more can be done in that area, for sure.
I guess there's no limit, right?
There's no, software.
Yeah.
That's the beauty about software. You can do a lot.
Now, with the machines themselves, I've seen lots of different kinds here with the helmets,
right?
The handhelds. Like, there's so many different systems. Which ones do you think the kids like the most? Do they like having the helmets on? Do they like the quick in and out? What do you see them interact with the best?
They like the helmet.
Yeah.
It gives them a more submerged feeling, in the environment, and also it feels more realistic because when you're welding, you're gonna wear a helmet.
Yeah. Can you make it burn you? Can you make it throw sparks at you?
Yeah. I'm sure we would love to be able to do that, but I'm not sure.
Or the smell. Have the smell of welding come out. I love that smell,
Not yet. Maybe on the horizon, but the most important thing, like I said, they're getting that muscle memory, and technique. Right. But yeah, the helmet is where it wins with the students. They like putting that helmet on, adjusting it. They love the feel of that.
When you're walking around the show here in Orlando and you see so much technology, so many new things coming up, even with yourself showing up all the new stuff, how does that empower your thinking as a leader in education for the next generation of products?
Honestly, it's very thought-provoking. And for me I go back to the same point. Look at what we're doing, how we continue to grow, and not only following just the trends, but taking the trend to the next level, right, where we can be leaders. So I walk around this room, like I tell you, this feels like the robot show, right? Yeah. Like it's automation at its finest. I think we now are charged as manufacturers who do well in building big blue machines is to really invest in the automation space. I mean, I remember I was at a conference earlier this year, and they talk about automation is a $1 billion industry.
And we're behind.
And we are behind.
We're behind, right?
So, you take myself at Miller, any of my other competitors, I think we're all being challenged now onto rising into the occasion. So that's what this type of show does for me personally, is to make sure we're always ahead of the game in technology and also engaging in technology.
Well, and I've seen in the last decade at Fabtech how much more competition has entered into the room. Right, it used to be 20, 30 companies. Now we're looking at 150, 200 companies. And how do you stay ahead of the competition?
That's a tough one. I mean, listen, we're made here in the U.S. I think that's a value for us being here. Another thing is we have been doing this a lot longer than many other people, right? So you take a company that knows welding, understands it, understands safety around that, and then now looking to adapt and add technology to that, we're going to produce a better product than those that are just tech companies, right? Trying to build a welding product. So that's where I think we differentiate in the market, and our products has proven that.
There's a trust factor too.
Absolutely. Right? The brand awareness, we've been out here for 90 plus years. I mean, it's not our first rodeo.
Yeah, and most welders are going to be used to using some type of Miller machine within their career. Yeah. And if you're old enough, you welded on Hobarts and if you're and the consumables and all the pieces of that. So there is that brand recognition that I think goes both ways too. Because as young students, if you're on the AR machine and it's Miller machine, you're going to be like, I like Miller, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. And to your point, this is why we're so intentional with supporting schools, because if you've trained on a Miller, you're going to buy Miller in your garage, right? That's what you're comfortable with. And we have studies to prove that, so that's why we're focused here. We have to invest in this. This is the way to go to stay relevant,
So last takeaways here, what would you like people to know, for yourself about the AR system, if you're an instructor listening to this or you're curious about it, but you're not able to come to these wonderful shows,
right?
What can you tell them about, how to look into it, what to think about?
Well, I'll say this. Don't look at the limitations of the finance to be the barrier to actually, engage in this technology. we have an awesome distribution channel, and 9 times out of 10, you're buying gas from someone,
Yeah.
and that's an authorized Miller distributor. I will encourage you to go forward and reach out to your distributor. Talk to them about augmented reality. Ask for a demo. We empower our channel, which are partners for us, like within our business, to come out and provide the demo, support you on onboarding onto that product. And also, we have some curriculum tools to support that. So I just want the instructor out there to know this. Don't allow money to be the barrier for your students to experience what's coming. Get in contact with Miller. We're here to support you. We have resources here for you. And the last thing I'll say is we are here and we're dedicated to this space. So just know that you have a partner in us, and, we're here to help.
That's awesome because, financially people get scared.
Oh, I understand. I was in that seat in my previous job.
Well, I was an instructor too, but now on the other side, I also know that there's a lot more people out there to help you than you realize. And if you come up with a game plan and you say, I want this, and you got to just figure out how to get it, you already know you want it. If you start asking the right questions, you'll figure it out. You'll find the funding. You'll do the applications. You'll reach out to the groups, and you'll find those pieces you need to get it into your school.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid of a crawl, walk, run approach, right?
Yeah.
So you may not be able to come in and afford like 5 systems. That's okay. If you can afford 1 this year and continue to build on that,
right, at
least you're getting some form of new technology in your classroom. So when your student gets out on the floor or wherever the case is, they're better.
Right.
So take that approach. I mean, I encourage it. I've done it my own way. So.
And how can people see it online? Where do they go? How do they find information?
Yeah, so check out millerwelds.com/education. We have all of our products there. Also, we have a great resource page as well where you can see some of our grant writing assistance tools.
Good.
We have some other details about how to start a welding program and things like that, because we know that's always a challenge for that product knowledge, and a few other things. So check us out, and a lot of it is free. I mean, we even offer PowerPoints online.
I've used them.
Awesome, right? Because you're always looking for things for lesson plans as an instructor. So that's available to you. We're really looking to remove the barriers to the technology. And we're always looking to build tools in that area.
It's interesting to see what's going to be next.
I'm telling you, I'm excited too.
And we got a sneak peek. Oh,
I don't know. I have to see if I trust you. No, I'm kidding.
But it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool.
Is
it going to be next Fabtech?
I can't make that promise. I can't make that promise, but I can say that what we're coming to do is to solve big problems in the welding space.
Nice.
And we have the instructors at the forefront.
Right.
It's not us just trying to sell. We want to make your life easier as an instructor. So that I can say.
Awesome.
What's coming.
Awesome.
Okay?
Well, thank you so much, Patricia, for being on the show. It's always fantastic.
Likewise.
And I'm sorry about my voice, but I've been working so hard.
You're working hard, man. Definitely.
All right. Any shout outs you'd like to say to anybody before we go off?
Yeah, I want to shout out to the education group, Phil Saby and Steve Hidden. Also the training solutions group. Thank you again, Jeremy, Karina, Ariane, and Jorge, and Jessica Marhefke, who leads that group. Thank you for what you do, and let us continue to be well.
Awesome. You heard it here. Patricia, who's been wonderful for many years with me, and then the education team at CWB, and they're always supporting us. We use a lot of these machines. We have them across Canada. So if you want to try out an augmented reality machine, reach out to the CWB Association in Canada. We can get one into your local school on a tryout basis for a week or a couple days. We can bring it to you, show you it, and let you see what it's like, and then connect you if you want to buy one. So let us know. And, we're also in the U.S. We can maybe do some helping too. So, but make sure you check out all these podcasts here at Fabtech, and I'll see you at the next episode. All right. So take care.
We hope you enjoyed the show.